Hello and welcome to Rainbow History Class, the queer and trans history that you probably didn't get in school. My name is Rudy Jean Rigg.
And my name is Hannah McElhinney, and thanks for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
So it's a story, but it's also, I want to tell you about a person today, because something that we get asked a lot is, you know, if you could go back in time and meet a historical figure, who's your favorite historical figure? Like, which historical figure do you have a crush on? I'm always pretty vague with the answer.
Yeah.
Because I've never really had a favorite. But I feel like now I do have a historical crush.
Wait, I thought it was Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, like that one, because it's kind of, she's alive and there still could be something between us.
Yeah.
But definitely with this person, unfortunately, she's no longer with us.
Okay.
But I want to tell you the story of, I would say, 1920s Berlin's answer to Chloe Sevigny.
No, are you serious?
Yeah, a Sapphic it girl
Okay.
that really took the city of Berlin by storm
my God.
in the 1920s. And she is incredible.
Please tell me more. I'm invested.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Did you know that art was once an Olympic sport?
I did. It's like one of my favorite fun facts about queer history.
I know. I think my favorite thing about art being an Olympic sport is that it just means that anyone can be an Olympian if you try hard enough. Like, it was an option for those that were not athletically inclined but still were world leading on whatever stage to perform and win medals.
I mean, that's true. But you know what I learned, not recently, but in like the last couple of years, is that like hairstyling and hair cutting and coloring and stuff, there's like competitions with that, which I feel like is like comparable in like the way that it takes place. Like,
I think so. I mean, I think it's sometimes I think the Olympics are getting a little bit like, they're edging a bit more into the art space. Obviously, we saw our national treasure Ray Garden very publicly walk that line between art and sport.
would we call it a public treasure though?
I mean,
treasured to some.
Treasured to some. Public phenomenon Ray Garden. Yeah, definitely like look at will show us that, you know, how the Olympics might deal with, you know, art in a sense. Okay? All right. Now, that is the context. So I want to tell you actually the story of the first, what we would say, queer or LGBTQ plus, not straight Olympic medalist.
Oh my God.
It
was her.
Yeah. So she actually won bronze, which is a very wonderfully ironic medal for her to win, seeing as her preferred method of creating art was through bronze casting.
Oh, it's perfect.
I know. So she kind of just like, if she didn't want the medal, she could just melt that thing down and continue with it. But she won bronze in the 1928 Olympics for sculpture.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love this as well because there was so many art categories in the Olympics that were, I guess, brought in because the spirit of the Olympics was all about, I guess, nonviolent unification of the countries. And so with all of the art, when they
I'm sorry, it's not we want peace, not war. It's we want Olympics, not war.
Essentially, yeah, there was,
my God.
When they resurrected the Olympics from the old Greek tradition, it was in this idea of bringing the world together over sport, hashed out on the playing field, if you will. And so what I think is interesting is that while there was Olympic sports of architecture, literature, music, painting, and sculpture, all of the art needed to have a sport theme.
Oh, okay. So it's like, okay, you may not be able to do shot put, but I better freaking see you sculpt a shot putter.
Yeah. Like if you can render a shot putter, you're as good as someone who can put the shot.
Oh, wow.
right?
Okay, yeah, okay.
Anyway, so that was kind of the spirit of the New Olympics in the early 1900s and why we had so many different like artistic categories.
Yeah.
Things change a little, and a lot of that was Hitler's fault.
I was going to say he can't keep his mitts out of goddamn anything.
No, exactly. But the person who I'm talking about is my historical crush, a Sapphic Chloe Sevigny, the it girl of 1920s Berlin. Her name was Renee Sintenis.
That is quite a name.
Yeah. She was born Renata Alice Sintenis in 1888, and she was born in Poland. And her family moved to Berlin in 1905. Now, she was an animal lover.
And she was an animal.
And she was an animal.
She loved animals.
She loved animals.
Was she a horse girl?
She was a horse girl.
Stop. I don't know.
I know she was a horse girl, but that was cool in this period of time because she was very, like, she had a love for dogs and horses, and she was quite reserved or shy. Like, she loved to spend time with animals more than people, which, relatable to a lot of us. And her parents sent her to art school because they thought it would be a good pre-marriage hobby.
I mean, it's a good post-marriage hobby.
Yeah,
it's a
exactly.
Good no-marriage hobby.
It's a good career choice.
Yeah.
No, so Renee's parents sent her to art school and were just like, kill some time before you meet a man. And so she did, and she loved it. Because what she did was she enrolled in sculpture, and so she enjoyed making animal sculptures.
Oh, that's really sweet.
And they were so sweet because they were these little figurines of different animals, and you can see them online, and they are really, like, you can just tell she was a nice person based on these sculptures. Like, no mean person would make such adorable little figures.
Oh my God.
And they're just got so much personality. And so in my head, she spends her days with her horses and her beloved dogs, and she's just making little sculptures, and I love her.
Oh, okay. I do love this. I bet she would be the kind of person to like hand make you a card for like your birthday and like come around with like a little cake. You know what I mean? Like she's a girl's girl.
Yeah, she is a girl's girl, which we will tap into later. But so in her 5th semester of art school, this is where her heart gets broken because her father makes her drop out to become his secretary.
Excuse me. How old is she? Too young.
Well, yeah, she's
Probably
young. She's like teenager.
Oh my God. Okay, so this guy not making near as enough money as he needs to actually hire a skilled and trained secretary.
Yes.
Thinks that he can crush his daughter's dreams just so that he doesn't have so many tasks to do.
Literally.
And
he sent her there. He was like, hey, fuck around with this. It'll be really fun until you get married. And then he's like, okay, that's not happening. Drop out, and now you're my secretary. Now this was, I'm not sure, like, because it's hard to, something that you always look back on with people in the past is kind of mental health is very difficult to define because in the past people were always having great periods of depression or moments of hysteria, breaks with reality, mental breakdowns, that's the kind of thing.
Isn't that funny though? Like back, it's always described as like, oh, it was quite not normal, but it did happen that like, oh, just depressed. And like seemed to be something that like we just kind of spoke about.
Yeah,
and
it
then
was
all of a
something
sudden
that
it became like, oh.
Yeah, it was like, in a sense medicalized. But I guess back then given the same weight as a physical ailment, and it was sort of in the 19th century that kind of idea of mental health and physical health sort of being one more important than the other or one more stigmatized than the other came about. But I get the impression, and so this is just someone who's been sitting with Renee's story.
Yeah.
I get the impression that she was quite sad. I think she was like a sad girl.
Oh, okay, like just full stop.
Just like a sad girl vibe, like sad horse girl.
Yeah, Mitski sort of.
Kind of. Yeah.
Okay.
I just feel like that is her energy.
Okay. What's her star sign? Do you know?
I think that's a good question.
I bet she's a Libra.
Really? You want to bet Libra? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Oh no, I'm really nervous now.
I told you she was a sad, emotional girl, and you said Libra.
Yeah. Is she a Cancer?
She's a Pisces.
What?
Pisces cry all the time. She's the most perfect Pisces.
Pisces?
Yes. She's emotional. She's emotional.
If you're a Pisces who cries.
Pisces cry all the time.
Really? Nah, not on my watch. Not in my Sagittarius.
They're just like a puddle.
Well, are they a water sign? That's why.
Yeah, they are. Okay. They're a water sign. And which also tells me that me and Renee would be very compatible.
Okay, we'll see me and Renee not.
No, absolutely. Probably because you'd be like, stop crying.
I'm like, why are you crying, poor girl?
So I get the sense that it could be she's a Pisces, could be she's depressed, could be the same. But I think she's got a darkness in her aura. So...
Renata? Darkness.
Yeah, exactly. So her father's made her drop out to become his secretary. Now, this absolutely sent her because she'd fallen in love with art at this point in sculpture. So she needed to split with her family, which is a cool and bold move.
Wow, love that.
Yeah. So she, at this point, cut her family off and she changed her name from Renata to Renee.
Wow. Okay.
And this was like a really hard period of her life because it made her depressed.
Yeah, well.
Which as you get, like you have to cut your family off so you can continue to do art instead of becoming your father's secretary. She was a bit of a kind of a lost, vulnerable soul at this point in Berlin, right? It is the early 1900s. Look, hard time to be in Germany. And
tensions are rising.
This point, it was, about to be kind of World War I, and what we know is that Germany would lose the war and, go through a really, really hard economic period. But in 1910, she met a sculptor called George Colby.
Why does that name ring a bell?
I really don't think you would know much about George Colby.
No, but the name feels like I know him, maybe in a past life.
Maybe, and maybe I'm not saying his last name correctly. So if you are German, I am sorry. So she became a model for George Colby.
Okay.
Which marks the beginning of her it girl era.
Right. I was going to say this could go one or two ways. It could be terrible. It could be good. So
Yeah. She meets a lot of, like, what's interesting, and I'll get into this, is the men that are in her life and her relationships with them. It seems that, like, because she's cut her father off, she is looking for almost fatherly figures in a few different men in her life. But yeah, so George Colby was someone, and she became a model for him. She modeled for a life-size sculpture, which obviously I told you I have a crush on her. Like, I would love to have that.
Where
in my
is
house.
it?
It's been lost to the sands of time.
Are you for real?
Yes. No one knows where it is. And I'll tell you why no one knows where a lot of this stuff is in a little bit. But she began modeling for him and other sculptures. So she was moving into this art world where she was kind of meeting established sculptors. And so that's when she began doing her own sculpture as a sort of a profession, as a working artist. And she focused on female nudes as well as athletes and tiny animals. So, like, my three favorite things.
That's basically the food period.
Right.
Pyramid.
Right. Yeah. My favorite thing. So, yeah, she'd do these female nudes, or she'd do these like little athletic figures, but then she'd also make these tiny animals that I told you about, and they're so sweet.
Oh my God. I can't wait to like Google all of this.
I'm going to show you one right now.
I would look, but my computer is dead.
Here they are.
Oh my God.
So there's a little horse, there's a little donkey, there's a little deer.
Oh.
I know, and they're really sweet.
What are they made from?
Bronze.
Oh, so her main practice was bronze.
Bronze casting.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So, yeah, she made these kind of little animals. Anyway, she's known for the bears. She makes these little bears, which were about 15-centimeter sculptures, and they were based on the Berlin coat of arms, which has this kind of bear looking like this.
Oh my God.
I'm doing a bear impression. But that's what like would grow to become an iconic, I guess, symbol of her work and would grow to support her financially later in life are these little bears.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. That's very niche, very cool.
It is. And there is a bear in Berlin, like a big statue that is kind of a monument to her.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. That's very cool.
So in 1917, so she's been in the art world for about 7 years at this point. She has become something of a muse for other sculptors and photographers. She really at one point was called the most photographed woman of the Weimar Republic.
Wow.
So, and this is where she really kind of flourishes. But in 1917, she married a man named Emil Rudolf Weiss. All right? Emil Rudolf Weiss.
You said...
I said Emil Rudel, didn't I? Yeah. Emil Rudolf Weiss.
Oh my God.
Rudel Weiss.
I can't take it. I'm changing my nickname from Rue to Rudel.
Yes, Rudel Rig. Emil Rudel Rig.
That's my kid's name.
Done. Emil Rudolf Weiss. So he was an artist, right? But guess what his art form was?
Sand sculptures.
No. One more guess, and then I'm going to tell you.
Can I have a clue?
Yes. The next person that popularized this art form was, for our generation, would be Steve Jobs.
What's Steve Jobs at an art? He wasn't an artist?
No, but he was the guy that reckoned fonts were important.
Oh, okay. So he was a typographer.
No, Steve Jobs wasn't a typographer.
No.
No, he was a font artist. So fonts at this point were hand lettered.
Okay.
And they weren't
very cool.
Yeah, so only a few of his fonts are still in use.
Yeah.
You can find them. He's done like a few Gothic fonts and things like that. You just look up Emil Rudolf Weiss if you're a graphic designer and want to tap into some historical fonts.
Love that.
So only a few are still in use, but he was 12 years older than her.
Right.
And so he was this kind of fatherly figure because she was still, I guess, not healed from cutting off her own father or ending that relationship. And so when I first started looking into this, I kind of had my guard up in terms of these men. Are they predatory? Are they, what are they doing to my Renee? What are they doing? Why are they all so much older? Why are they so important to her? It does seem like she was this kind of Tumblr girl.
Yeah.
A little bit of maybe a deep thinking, emotional girl that they wanted to come and help. And she was very beautiful.
Okay.
She was very beautiful. So, but by all accounts, Emma Rudolf Weiss was a good guy.
Okay.
Yeah, a good guy to her.
I'm glad.
He was also an Olympic artist.
Okay.
Yeah. So he also competed in the same Olympic Games that
Power couple.
Yeah, Renee did. But this was in the painting sport category. He was a painter.
Wait, so he created fonts, typography was his jam.
Yeah.
But he went into the painting category.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, because fonts were painted.
Oh, so he just went and wrote what, a big
No, I don't think he... No, because he had to... the painting was sport related. All the Olympics. So he was good at painting, and his favorite thing was to illustrate fonts.
Oh my God, I was literally like, is he doing an alphabet where it's all just shapes of like athletes?
Maybe.
Like, I don't know. I'm just...
Emil Rudolph Weiss, 1928 painting. Okay, so his painting seems to be of some people watching the swimming.
Oh, boring. He was a rake.
He was a rake. All right. So
maybe there was hidden letters in
I don't think so. I don't think that there was any fonts in what he was doing. But I think he was pretty good with a paintbrush.
All right, cool. Good.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to say.
Happy for him.
So these Olympic Games were held in Amsterdam. They were a power couple of the art Olympics. She won bronze in sculpture. He competed.
Great. Love this for them.
He did not podium.
Okay, bit of a ray gun.
Yeah, exactly. So he was the ray gun, and she was talented.
Michael Phelps.
And she was Michael Phelps. So the period of art in the Olympics was only very, very short. So it was like 1912 was art brought in, and it ended in 1948. So there was, that's after World War II. And so in the 1928 Olympics, Renee Sintenis won her bronze medal, which was for a tiny statue again it was called a footballer.
Okay.
It was a footballer. And that makes her thought to be the first queer Olympic medalist.
Oh my God. Okay.
Okay, but so far she's married to this guy. Where's the queer stuff come in? That's what we're gonna get to.
The Olympic Village.
Well, apparently it goes off.
I know. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it goes off.
I know it goes off. Yeah.
It goes off.
I'm an Olympic insider. I am a failed elite athlete. That's how I know.
Okay, well, it goes off, but that's actually not where Renee went about her gay life. So when we look at this period of like 1928, for example, this was under what we call the Weimar Republic, which was a period between wars in Germany where basically, I guess, sociology, social science, progressive thought really flourished. It was a really hard economic period. In Germany, they had this really intense reparations debt to pay.
We spoke about this in a previous episode.
Yeah. So it was basically the German economy was gutted. And so it was a period of hedonism as well, because there was like this rampant hyperinflation in Germany at the time. So we spoke about this in terms of people spending their money as soon as they made it by going to the cabaret, because by the next morning it would have like lost value.
What did I say? If I went back in time, what would be something that I would do knowing that the money value would change? And I just said I'd steal.
Yeah, I was like, that was a really interesting perspective.
You'd go to the cabaret, I would steal.
You would steal.
Yeah.
So like that's the backdrop economically, but because of the hedonism, that meant that, the cabaret and I guess the queer scene really flourished, because people had this kind of world's ending tomorrow, fuck it kind of vibe. And there was also a lot of social sciences. So in terms of institutions like the Sexology Institute by Magnus Hirschfeld was really kind of an icon of this period. People were talking really progressively about sexuality, about gender. This was the era where, we were first getting a consciousness of trans people, where gender identity was becoming separated from sexuality and attraction. And really what this meant was that there was a burgeoning queer culture for the first time. This was the period where there was the first kind of lesbian magazine. And it was a very exciting period. There were a lot of lesbian bars in Berlin at this time in the 1920s, and nowhere else has really rivaled that for these kind of lesbian scenes, I guess, in history. So enter Renee Sintenis. She she's nearly 6 foot tall, so she's very tall.
Hold up. I had been thinking that she was a petite woman.
No.
She's
She's
5'1" stature at most.
No, she's 5'9", 6 foot.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So she is really, really tall.
Yeah.
She has this like page boy haircut, which is really, really cropped and short. Cool. She wore men's clothing, so men's jackets. And this was a fashion trend. I think we've spoken in a previous episode about the boobies, the boobie trend, which is, refers to little boy, essentially. You had this generation of women who were queer. They loved other women and they dressed in a very chic, androgynous or masculine style of dress with short hair. And this wasn't kind of a subculture type thing. They were considered the Neufrau. I'm sorry again if you're German, but, the new woman, essentially. Yeah. And so this was kind of, we'd see her like smoking cigarettes in a European elegant way, staying up all night in these like lesbian bars, and she had a lot of queer friends who were also artists and involved in this scene. We don't know in terms of what shape her dalliances in these lesbian bars took, but what we do know is that she was kind of a staple of them. So she was always there. She was in the social scene, the lesbian social scene. She was a really important part. And because she was so kind of beautiful or visually stunning in a sense, she became the most photographed woman of this particular period. So all these photographers and artists wanted to take her portrait. Often she has these 2 terriers that she poses with.
She's bringing these terriers into
because at the end of the day, like she's going to like in the studio when she's being photographed.
I was like, how are they getting past security?
No, I think she could have done what she liked, but I think ultimately it's interesting. What I get is, because there's a lot of conflicting information about her, is I get that she did go to these lesbian bars, but she was also quite reclusive and still had that part of her that just preferred staying home with her animals. Yeah. So I love the all or nothing type of thing, but she wasn't about to get up and go to work.
Yeah.
She was spending time at home with her animals or doing her art, or she was in the lesbian club. And that is a dream life.
Yeah.
So she was married. So Emil Rudolph Weiss tolerated this. So I
love how it's always they're tolerating it.
They tolerated it because I think, if I put my empathy hat on to him, he's a bit older. He is taking a bit of a caretaking role in her life. I do believe they loved each other like very deeply. And I also think that, lesbianism or queerness at the time in this period was considered like a modern thing that people did, rather than sort of particularly like something that would break up your marriage. It was kind of just like something that fell under the mystery of women.
Yeah. Do you think it was still a little bit of like that's just an act, it's not who you are sort of thing?
I think, but I think that there was a bit more of a culture around it. I think there was a lot amongst the men, like a lot of sexual fluidity. But I do think what this is with the women, there was a kind of sense of, in 1920s in general, women getting agency, and so they would dress in a way that gave them that agency. They weren't like, they were wearing comfortable tailored clothing, and they had a bit more power in society. They cut their hair short, and then also they kind of were able to eschew men and go with each other. So I think there was a bit of like that kind of feminist consciousness to it as well. But yeah, this was a stunning period, and while it would have been a very hard time to live, there would have been a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah.
But like I said, Hitler comes in and ruins pretty much everything.
Fuck Hitler.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So Renee Sintinis was considered non-Aryan. She wasn't Jewish, but she was alleged to have Jewish roots or ancestry.
Anyone could say that they...
Exactly.
Yeah, which is just ridiculous. Yeah.
She was born in Poland. You know, she was considered non-Aryan.
Yeah, not good enough for Hitler.
So this sucks. She was expelled from the Academy of Arts for it.
Oh, this is all because Hitler couldn't go to art school. You know, he's taking it out on other artists.
Kind of literally. Her husband as well was outspoken against some of the Nazi regime, and he was also he was teaching and he was fired. But what's interesting, and this I thought was super weird. There was a thing at the time called degenerate art, which I love the sound of.
Yeah.
Yeah, degenerate art. So there was a whole lot of art that the Nazis decided was degenerate.
Okay.
So they would shut it down. They would fire people. They would, censor it, suppress it, steal it, take it off walls of galleries because they thought that it was all anti-Germany.
Okay.
What I didn't think that they would do is host a degenerate art exhibition.
Trying to make a quick buck whenever they can.
Yeah, so the Nazis had all their confiscated degenerate art material and thought, let's bring a curator and make an exhibition of it all.
Oh my God.
Which there is a sort of art campness to this.
I mean, it's kind of like, people who hate modern art and just go, I could do that. I mean, I'm not saying that they're Nazis. That's absolutely not what I'm saying at all. But it gives a similar vibe of someone who hates modern art doing a satirical modern art exhibition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was surprisingly in on the culture and iterative to what I would have expected from the Nazis.
Yeah, very bold move. But they were probably like, oh, we don't have time to make our own art. Hitler's still too embarrassed to put his paintings out there after being rejected. And he's like, what do we got? Oh, guys, what have we got in storage? Oh, that degenerative shit. Yeah, all right, fine. Just up the price so the profit margin's bigger.
It kind of was that because at the end of the day, they could, make money off inviting the public to see degenerate art, which does make it sound a little bit more...
I mean, it's a propaganda
exciting
piece. That's definitely what it is. It's propaganda.
So the exhibition had these different categories and how it was set up. All right. And I'm going to read to you some of them.
Please.
And a trigger warning in terms of these categories are really awful. So please, you could jump forward 15 seconds if you like. But insolent mockery of the divine under centrist rule, revelation of the Jewish racial soul, an insult to German womanhood, this one, the ideal, cretin and whore, deliberate sabotage of national defense, German farmers, a Yiddish view, the Jewish longing for the wilderness reveals itself, madness becomes method, and this one, nature as seen by sick minds.
Every single one of them is absolute gold.
I know. It's amazing because it's kind of like they're written in a way that you would set out an art exhibition.
Like an art review magazine.
It's quite elevated.
Yeah.
And I really think that if I was going to get a tattoo, I would get one that said nature as seen by sick minds.
What was the first one?
Insolent mockery of the divine under centrist rule.
I would just get insolent mockery of the divine.
Okay, madness becomes method is also quite cool. But German farmers, a Yiddish view, just sounds like an exhibition that would be on at the NGV right now.
I really am enjoying. They had the wrong intentions, but I do like the
execution.
Yeah.
So this was kind of how deeply entwined the Nazi rule became in the art world.
Yeah.
Which is surprising. It's not surprising, but I guess the focus on it was a really, like, they were really concerned with people's expression being anti-German. So it's not surprising, but I guess, like, going to the point of curating an exhibition of degenerate art, in my opinion, is surprising.
Yeah.
But, you know, her work was part of this degenerate art exhibition, and so was the work of a bunch of her friends. Her friends were predominantly, gay, which meant that they would be very harshly persecuted under the Nazis' interpretation of paragraph 175, or they were Jewish. And so, yeah, enough said. Her friends all had to flee. Now, it was really hard for Renee who didn't flee, to continue to work because there was a bronze casting ban because all bronze was needed for ammunition.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So your main art form is now required to be used as weaponry.
It's corsets all over again.
It is. It's exactly like the corsets. So yeah, it was a really rough period in Renee's life, but also a lot of people's lives, because this was, life under Nazi rule. And then in 1942, so still under Nazi rule, she's unable to work. She can't use bronze. There is something interesting that I did see about this bronze casting ban was that Picasso did a bronze sculpture of his own head, and it was considered to be kind of an act of rebellion because of the bronze casting ban. And so often when you look up anything about it, it's associated with Picasso instead of with women.
Oh, God.
Anyway, in 1942, her husband, Weiss, died suddenly from some kind of heart failure. And he was age 77. And then shortly after, her studio was bombed.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So this meant that Renee entered a deep depression. She was absolutely devastated by the death of her husband. And then not being able to work, not having a studio was just, I don't know, salt in that wound. And she really, really went into a dark place. But throughout this time, she moved into a small apartment. And this is kind of, I don't know, there is a resilience here, because I think, I don't know, like, she did just kind of continue on despite, this battle with depression and these hardships that had, befallen her. She moved into a small apartment with her housekeeper, who was a woman named Magdalene Goldman.
Cute. Love that.
And she lived in a small apartment with Magdalene for her entire life after this.
Wow.
And there's a general consensus that they were in a romantic relationship. Magdalene was Renee's sole heir after she died.
Okay.
And we don't know too much about their relationship, apart from the fact that, they were very happy together. They lived a little bit more out of the public eye. And I think this is where Renee's life starts to pick up, because back in 1932, she made that first little bear statue. And so while she wasn't able to make these during the casting ban, this would eventually become what sustained her life.
Okay.
Yeah, and this is why I love this story, because, obviously back then when your husband died, that was a really precarious position for a woman to be in terms of income. And she didn't, she wasn't able to do her main artwork throughout this time. But these little bears became a bit of a symbol of Berlin at the time. It was based off the coat of arms.
Yeah.
And so these little bears started fetching a decent price. And so the money from these little bear statues sustained her until she died.
Whoa, okay.
And these little bears are still given to the winners of the Berlinale art prize.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's really sweet.
Yeah. So you can, if you win a prize there or an award, you'll get these one of Renee's little bears to her design. Yeah, and they're really sweet. So I kind of like that because at the end of her life, like, it was these little animal statues that her father wouldn't let her continue with that did end up sustaining her for her entire life. It was kind of funny. She was the most fashionable, like, striking, beautiful it girl, right, of the Weimar Republic. But when the war ended and she kind of retreated, like, this is what sucks about, like, fashion and going in and out of trends.
Yeah.
Because she basically didn't evolve. She didn't evolve.
So she kept her shtick.
So she kept her shtick. And she was photographed with a lot of, like, art students for this piece in Life magazine. And I think Life magazine throughout this period was a very influential magazine, did a lot of almost like political reportage. It was a really kind of, I guess it's a prestigious feature. And all of the young artists at this time throughout the 20th century were doing new art, modern art, that type of thing. And there's this photo where she's just sitting there with her little animal.
Yeah.
And she never moved on from the little animals. And so she sort of fell out of fashion. It was considered like not in vogue anymore.
Yeah.
These little animals were just like, she was a bit of a one-trick pony.
Yeah.
But she kind of stayed true to what she always wanted to do with it, which were these little animal statues, which I think it's really nice. And I basically, there's a quote that spoke to her depiction in Life magazine as when she was much older, and it was like Sintonist surrounded by younger artists. They all show their abstract paintings. Renee is still there with a small animal.
Oh no, that's kind of so Mitski.
I know. And she died in 1965.
Wow.
So she lived a really long life, and like by all accounts, you know, it was hard to live a long life as a non-Aryan, I guess, widow.
Yeah.
During the World War II. But yeah, she did. And I think that I want to give her a special trophy.
Yeah. Give her a bear.
I want to give her a bear.
That's so sweet. That's a really sweet story.
It is a sweet story.
Yeah.
But anyway, I told you this is why I do have a crush on her.
Please show me a photo.
Look at her.
She just looks like Hannah.
Oh, yeah.
She just looks like your fiance. That is
yeah, she does. She actually does. I love a strong nose.
She looks like Hannah. That's actually wild.
Oh, yeah.
That just looks like Hannah.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
Okay,
you should get Hannah to, like, replicate.
Maybe I will.
Yeah,
maybe I will. And I'll stick it on the Instagram.
Yeah, she's really beautiful. She's very striking.
She is.
Wow, and she makes little bear sculptures.
And this is her little bears that you get if you win an award at the Berlinale.
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah, so that is the story of the first queer Olympic medalist and my historical crush.
Thank you so much. Renee or Renata will always live in our hearts now.
Yeah.
The little bears kills me. That really hurts my heart in like a nice way.
And I also just think, you know, from a water sign perspective and in terms of pathos, there is just something really nice about, or really kind of sad, bittersweet about being the moment for for a short period of time, but then just kind of like retreating, but staying true to the thing that you've always thought is like beautiful, which are these animals, and not kind of following the trends. And I'm not sure if she ever worried about whether or not she was the moment anymore, but I don't think that she did.
No, she doesn't look like this. She doesn't look like she would. She's a Pisces, and I don't know what Pisces are like in those moments.
And that's what we'll leave you with.
Yeah. But no, thank you. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed Hannah's story about Renee, you can check us out over on Instagram and TikTok. We've got a bunch of little tiny short videos on there, as well as some clips from other episodes of the podcast. If this happens to be your first one, that is a good little toe dipping exercise. But of course, you are most welcome to go through our growing catalog. If you'd like to join our community, we have a Discord, so head on over there. The link is in the show description. And if you'd like to check out some more exclusive content, we do have a Patreon and we do have a free tier. So don't be put off by the word Patreon, which I find is kind of a common thing, actually. Like, people hear Patreon and they think, oh my God, I've got to give over my life savings. No, that's not the case here. We've got a free tier so you can access some of that exclusive content for free. But thanks again for listening, and make sure you leave us a review or 5 stars on Spotify. We love reading the reviews.
We really actually do.
Yeah, they're really fun. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that. But Hannah, do you want to send us off?
I would like to send you off with some wise words. I was just like popping into the discourse there. Oh my God. The Discord. And I love seeing everyone there. That's really nice. So my parting words are, not everything is gay, but there is gay in everything, including the Olympics. But we already knew that.